about one of your compositions, and I think what you could say is that this is a little special favorite of your own, which you call 4 o'clock, and you've been playing it for over 40 years now. And then you just play it as long as you like. I didn't say anything else if you want to read. Where you first played.
This number here, called 4 o'clock, I've been playing this about 40 years. It's peculiar how I come to run onto this tune. I had some exercise and scale books, and I was running over the scales, thirds, so here's where it started. Imagine you like to hear some of the tunes that are kind of famous in them days.
Excuse me, Sid. I'm sorry. I distracted you. Would you start it from the beginning? Just start from the very beginning, and then when you want, just turn your head, and Hal will come over, and you say, "Now this is the way I used to play it on the coast," and then later I'm going to play it for you like I play it today.
This is the way I used to play this number some of these days on the coast. Next time I play it for you like I play it today. bit later. Now we'll have a little bit of Basin Street, which is very popular. Uptown Strutter's Ball, where it used to be played, and later on I'll try and change it a little bit.
if you want to just talk about this sitting in an easy chair, why don't you do that instead of sitting on the piano bench?
Yeah, that's all right.
Whichever way you
I
like.
feel more home over
All
here.
right, good.
Hey,
Now, what's it? Try to remember the sequence in which you've told me these things. You started with the St. Louis Blues, and then the Basin Street Blues,
yeah, I
and
told
the
you.
St. Louis Blues, and then you went on into this story.
A little history of the background of some of those tunes, like the
Yeah.
Basin Street Blues. Why, I happened to be in Sherman Clay's, and the gentleman in the sheet music department always laid the music aside for me, and I went there, and he said, here's a peculiar thing. He says, I've been around all through the east and south, he says, in New Orleans. I've been in Basin Street. He said, but I never thought that we'd have a tune like that. He says, take it upstairs and try it. I had a little mezzanine room up there, and I went up there, and I said, this is pretty good. So I played it, and I said, we took it on down and went over it with the band, and then it got to be pretty popular. Then all of a sudden it died, and it come back again when Will Johnson and his New Orleans Jazz Band come here. Then we had the instrumentation had changed. As I said, I started out originally with down at Sam King's, which is in the Barbary Coast, playing piano under a fellow by the name of Jack Ross. He'd been an old soldier. He put several enlistments in the army, in the band, and he was very stubborn and hard-headed about playing the tunes, which, as I related before, that marches and waltzes and mazurkas and polkas, and he'd play them, and when they'd ask him to play slow drag, or the blues they call them, he'd just ignore them, see? So he played the violin, and the peculiar thing about it, he played a violin strung up right-handed, but he played it left-handed, and he could play it, see? So he, when he'd step out to the restroom, why, the gang would say, play the blues, or slow drag, and I'd play the blues, and the floor would be full of people, see? So Sam King, it was very characteristic that he always stood at the head of the bar all night and greeted the customers as they come in and shook hands with everybody. He noticed it, see? So they put old Jack on the spot. They told him he'd have to play more ragtime tunes. He said, he was running orchestra, and they didn't like the way they run the orchestra. Why, that's just too bad. So they give him customary 2 weeks' notice and let him go. Of course, it wasn't union in them days, but give him customary 2 weeks' notice and let him go. And that's how I got to be leader of the band, see? They made me leader of the band, see? And I went from there on, see? And naturally, I got rid of the violin, and as I seen that we didn't have no bass fiddle, what I know about instrumentation, your violin goes fine, your strings go fine when you have some of the other strings to go with it. You got to have the bass violin to bring your fiddle out, because it's all in the same family, see? But if you got a violin in there against cornets and clarinets and trombones and one stuff and another, it don't jive, see? So naturally we had clarinet, cornet, trombone, piano, and drums, see? So I stuck bass in there, see? And because that was the Louisiana type, cornet and clarinet, cornet and trombone, clarinet, bass, guitar. Because in the early days they didn't have no pianos. I don't know whether they didn't allow them to have any pianos in the South, but before the rebellion, I don't know what they had down there, but there wasn't many pianos, because all those old-time bands, as Wade Whaley told me when he first started playing, he played on them boats, you know, and take fellas like King Oliver and all those fellas, they went around from place to place with the bass fiddle, guitar, and a fiddle, and cornet and clarinet and trombone, see?
Well, Sid, about what year was this that you switched over to the New Orleans type of instrumentation?
It was long about 1912. Yeah, I think it was along
And
12.
Will Johnson's band been up there at that time?
Yeah, he'd been here. And
what? Yeah, I'll go ahead.
then later on come King Oliver's band. I think Will Johnson, like in here, says that it names some of the first New Orleans jazz bands, but Will Johnson was the first one that I ever heard of when he went east and come out here. Quite a character. He was real light. And I don't ever remember seeing a cigar lit, chewing it. And he played the bass fiddle with a glove on it, see? And we out here west was kind of amazed to see a man pick a bass. We know that in symphony orchestras and theater orchestras, the picking was generally what they call pizzicato on the bass, see? And to see him pick it like that, and that's where I got the idea. I listened, and I said to the fellas, I said, you know, that old...
Excuse me, would you do it again without...
yeah, I heard that thing squeaking in. I said, you know, we got to get it. Four beats. Boom, 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 boom. See, I can hear that rhythm. I can hear the difference in the rhythm, which was changing them days. See, now they play the two beats and they play it. Well, I think a little more solid than we did in them days. See, and I had a drummer. He got kind of eminent because I wanted him to play over the 4 beats. He said, "Man, you don't know how much work that is." I said, "Well, you know, the man's paying this to work." I said, so we had a little boy around there by the name of Georgie Huddleston, who was a terrific drummer. Oh, he was terrific, see. And old Pete, my old drummer, was traveled for 20 years with Richard and Pringle's Minstrels, the old Georgia Minstrels, and he could read all the notes that you put up there. But he wasn't much on faking. His faking was kind of raggedy, as we call it. So we finally let George go and Pete go and got this Huddleston boy, see, and he played 4 beats. Well, when he joined the band, everybody thought, well, gee, this band is another band, 4 beats. See? Jesus. So then come King Oliver and his band. And he had a terrific band. He used to come and sit in with us after he got done playing. He used to play at the Pagola on Market Street. And he'd come down to Purcell's and sit in with us and play. And some people kind of made fun of his music, you know, Louisiana-style music. I told him, I said, well, believe it or not, that's the stuff, you know, we was playing in them days, orchestrations and dill pickles and all that commercial stuff, you know what I mean, a lot of that commercial stuff. And we didn't have so much of the original stuff, see, not like I've learned since, see. And as I say, them fellas that had learned music and was playing with me, they got a little kind of hinky because they could play music. And I just told them one day, I said, well, you can play all the music and all the notes and everything. I said, it's just like me. I said, I come through the same category. I said, old Henry Stewart, an old singer with a minstrel show, told me, said one day, says, kid, you know, you can play all the notes that they put up there in front of you. What you got to do, you got to learn to fake. We called it fake in them days. See? Call it possibly improvisation today, see? He says, and get around some of them ear piano players and learn how to fill in and fake, see? And he says, when they walk up to you and ask you to play a song, he says, you got to learn to play by ear, see? And I told them fellas, I said, now you either got to do that or we'll have to get some more musicians, see? Well, finally we weeded on out until we got this present-day So Different Orchestra, the picture that I showed you the other day. And them fellas could play anything. That's the bunch that played the overtures, see? And take fellas like Adam Michel, the clarinet player. Why, in those days they used the A and B clarinet. You used the B when using the flats and the A when using the sharps. He used the B flat clarinet, make no difference where he was. And we played a lot of waltzes. In those days, such waltzes as Wedding of the Wines and Toujours Jamais, Ever and Never, Toujours Fidèle, see? Emil Warteifel's waltzes, which is beautiful waltzes, Strauss's waltzes. And them old boys didn't care what key they put it in, see? They didn't stick in B flat and E flat, they went all over, 3 sharps, 4 sharps, and 5 sharps. He'd take that clarinet and play any of them. He's the first man that I ever heard slur on a clarinet like a trombone, see? And he played the worst clarinets that you ever looked at, and I got one of them right out in the barn in the shed. I just keep it as a relic more than anything else. He played the old Albert system. You know what it is now? It's all Bem system. Played the Albert system, 13 keys, and when the rubbers broke, when the springs broke, he used rubbers, and when something happens, he'd stick some gum in the holes and play them. How he got all that music out of the clarinet, see? Then he finally, later on, he switched over to the Bam system, see? And did you ever see a E-flat clarinet? He played one of them. We used that on Tag Rag. Yeah. And
get some real squeals out.
Oh yeah, that's all that squealing going on there.
Sid, I'd like to cut back to the King Oliver part and get you describing the music as chew tobacco and spit it on the wall music. Would you let it run? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you recall that, Sid?
What's that?
You once told Turk that the King Oliver band played chew tobacco and spit it on the wall music.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Would you work that in? I mean, tell me something about the Oliver band and work in that description, because that's a wonderful description.
Well, they where they got that spit on the wall business, or King Oliver's band, when they come here, they come down to the place to play, and his bass player chewed tobacco, see, and they got to playing, and everything was getting hot, romping. And I've seen this fella, they were playing a waltz there, or there was something unusual for them fellas. Somebody asked them to play a waltz, so they played a waltz. And I never will forget what the waltz was. It was just getting kind of popular in them days. Sidewalks in New York, see. I see that guy. I turned his head, and pretty soon I looked over there and I seen some brown spots on the wall. And I says to the boys, I said, after they went, I said, you know that character that spit all over our wall over there? I said, they come here with that tobacco chewing wall spitting band. And I said, oh, I don't think that's, look here. I went on over like this, the wall here was wet and spit all over the wall with this chewing tobacco. See? I thought it was chewing tobacco. It wasn't. You know what it was? That old Southern snuff. Snooze. See? You know, King Oliver had one bad eye. And did you ever see him play?
No, much before my time.
He played in the position, and if he's looking at like this eye, it looked like a blemish on the eye. It was kind of had a blue cast, see? And he didn't need no music, see, because he was really wonderful, see, the way he played. And he was, the funny thing about him, he was the only one of the band that would come in, out of his band of 6 pieces, that would come in and sit in with us. The rest of the fellows wouldn't come in. Because I don't blame the trombone player for not coming in there, because I had a fellow just working extra around there. Russ Morgan was his name, same name as this. And he'd cowpunch you up in Montana. He was a kind of light Negro, kind of red, ruddy complexion. Looked like little Indian mixture there someplace. And peculiar thing about him, he played the trombone, and what I mean, he played it, and he didn't play no trombone parts. He played the lead. And if anybody has ever heard the old rubber plant rag, I can't play it no more, I forgot it. If any of the old rubber plant rag, nothing but 16 notes all the way through it, and he'd play it on that trombone and just as clean as a whistle. So therefore I said I don't blame that trombone player for not coming down there, because he was terrific, see. And he's the fellow that broke up the show with the entertainers stealing the money, see. Our entertainers would palm a dime. They'd get a half a dollar, they'd give you a dime instead of a quarter. This hand would palm a quarter. They'd get a dollar, they'd give you a quarter instead of it. So Russ says to me, he says, you know, that Mabel and the rest of them out there, he says, man, he said, if we had the money that belonged to us, said we'd split the tips every night at 1 o'clock, and then I played on, see, till 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, whatever, as long as the crowd stayed. He said, if if we had the money that belonged to us, he said, we could possibly have quite a time. He said, you know, Mabel is one of them, and can't think of the other fellow's name, was killing us. Right? He said practically all of them killing us except Mitch and Nettie. Well, Willie Mitchell is Strut Mitchell, who is in Los Angeles now. I haven't seen Willie for many years, see? And they didn't come any cleaner than Willie, see? And they didn't come any cleaner than Nettie. But the rest of them characters. So he caught Mabel. The man gave her a $2 bill, as they're kind of ancient today. And she come up and give us 4 bits. And Russ dropped that trombone and reached out there and grabbed her and took her apart, see? And grabbed that $2 bill and made her give up the rest of it. And he turned around and said, the place was full of people. He turned around and the entertainers all sat in one corner like, chair. He turned around and he said, now that ought to be a lesson to the rest of you. He said, because I'm going to do the rest of it. Oh, he battered up the side of the head and made a nosebleed, see? She had to go out downstairs. And he says, that'll be a lesson for the rest of you. He said, we're all clean here. He says, you don't forget when Vincent Rose come in here, the songwriter, and give us $20 to play, that we put $5 of that in with the tips that you people got. Now, he said, you don't think of that, see? He says, now you just play fair and square. Well, to make a long story short, the tips commenced to increase right away, see? Because then the funny thing about Vincent Rose, I made $75 one night. Nettie Compton sang a song that he liked, and when I got done, I had $75. That's the most tips I ever made in one night, and that was something. I made Separation Blues. Did you ever hear that? Well, that was quite a number in them days. Made $35 on it.
real? Good.